Welcome to Carcone Carne. I'm James Van Alstel. This is episode 710, and mid-March marks the return of Carcone Carne into the universe, among people. Carcone Carne will begin its return to normalcy in mid-March with a visit to the Wiener Circle, and it'll just go on from there. Meanwhile, mid-March, also an important time for live and local music. 2 nights at Empty Bottle. It is Situation Chicago Live. It's on the 15th and 16th. Night 1 of music, including the likes of White Mystery, former Carcone Carne guest Mirrors, former Carcone Carne guest Neptune's Core. That's night 1. Night 2 with Gramps the Vamp, former Carcone Carne guest Justice Hill, and Nighttime Love. Al Tamper. 2 nights of music, $15 a piece. Proceeds benefiting Chicago's arts and music and civil, the Chicago Independent Venue League. Awesome. It's been a while since you've been to a show for all the reasons. Here's a good way to jump back into things. Empty Bottle, the place for that. So as I'm about to record, as I'm about to bring on my guest, I'm drinking Well-Being. This is their amber. It's called Hellraiser. I love this. Probably seen me drink this on Carcone Carne before. Yeah, this is great. It's non-alcoholic beer. They literally go through the process of craft brewing. They take it to the finish line, and then they magically, I don't know how it's done. It's magic. They pull the alcohol out, and it's non-alcoholic. If you want to try Well-Being Brewing's various craft beers, craft NA beers, and CBD waters, go to wellbeingbrewing.com. Use my promo code to get it mailed to your house. 10% off with the promo code JVO. Cheers. So my guest tonight, it's interesting. The Oscars are coming up. It is the 94th annual Academy Awards. We all know the Academy Awards as Hollywood's time suck of self-congratulations. It's happening on March 27th, but some people take the Oscars very, very seriously. So with that, my guest tonight is author Eric Litt. His new book, Oscar's Biggest Mistakes, A Superfan's Guide to the Academy Awards 1969 to 2021, is a fan's eye view of what the Academy got right, and more interestingly, what they got wrong over the past 50 years. Eric Litt, hello.
Hey, James, how are you?
I'm good. And you, sir, are super passionate on the topic of the Academy Awards, to the point where you wrote a large book on the topic. People go all out for the Oscars. They throw parties. Let's start with that level of enthusiasm. For me, to be completely transparent, I don't get it. I love music, but I'd rather eat glass than watch the Grammys. What is it about the Academy Awards that sucks people in, that sucked you in?
It's a good question, and part of it is because I love movies so much. I love movies probably the way you love music, and I do love music as well. But the Oscars is just one of those unique shows that's kind of different from all the other ones, and it's a show that I take in every year. I consider it my Super Bowl. It's really just total nonsense, but I enjoy it. I like the glitz of it. I like the glamour of it. I like all the movie clips. I like the categories. It's a fun night. I consider it my Super Bowl. I used to throw Oscar parties. I don't anymore, but it's a night I gear up for. I order up all kinds of crap to eat. I sit in front of the tube. I have all my sheets and make sure I don't have any plans that evening. And I just sit there and I watch the show. I don't care how long it is. It can be 4 hours long. It doesn't bother me. I expect it to be a bad show because most of the time it is, but I just get into it. I like it because I enjoy the medium. I enjoy, just the whole thing of it. It's just a fun night. I mean, it's kind of like the culmination of the year of film, and the Oscars are different from the other ones, specifically the Golden Globes, because I think the Golden Globes is a bit of a farce, and there's nothing more evident about that than it is now. But I just think it's the pinnacle. It's the award that everybody wants, and I enjoy it.
Patton Oswalt's very recently called out the Academy on Twitter. And by the way, if you don't follow Patton Oswalt on Twitter, he's one of the must follows on Twitter. But he called out the Academy for not including certain categories in this year's telecast, including score, film editing, documentary short, makeup and hairstyling. What do you think? You think they should just go all in? I mean, if the telecast is already 4 hours, why not include these valuable categories or important categories?
Yeah, I do. To a certain extent, I understand what they're doing and I understand the outcry of it. I really do. I don't feel as strongly about it as I'm hearing other critics. I was on another podcast last week and he just went crazy over it, and I've been hearing a lot of it the same thing. And I know there's some outcry on it right now. I think they should absolutely include them into the show. I don't think they necessarily need to do it on a live basis, only because the show isn't just dire need of fixing now anyway. That so what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it a little bit of a tighter show. If they were to say we are not going to be including these categories at all, that's a big problem. That would be something that I'd probably be joining in the choir with. But because the Academy said that we are going to still be incorporating those Oscars into the show, showing the nominees, showing the winners and portions of the speeches, even though it's in an edited fashion, I think it's okay as long as it's done well, tastefully, respectfully, and it still gives these talented nominees a chance to show themselves and to get their moment. If as long as it's done well, I mean, if it's done in kind of a pish posh way and it's kind of like, speeding through it, then they didn't do it justice. But I mean, the bottom line is that they still have to put on a television show, and if it's a way to make things a little bit tighter, have things go a little bit smoother, then I'm willing to give it a try, see how it goes, not get so outraged over it, because I think there's more things to be outraged over. You know, these are absolutely important categories because those are things that contribute to a film.
Mhm.
But I want to give them a little bit of rope. I want to see how they do it first and see how it goes. I'm a little bit more upset of the fan favorite category that they're throwing in this year, which is done via Twitter vote. I just think it's stupid. I think it's more of a people's choice thing. I don't think it's needed. It shows. It kind of reminds me of when they did the blockbuster choice or blockbuster award that they were going to do a couple of years ago. They fortunately decided not to do it. That I find a little bit more irritating because it's sort of like a slap in the face to the popular films. And, for years, the Academy has always ignored the more popular films that make money,
Mhm.
Every now and then they'll get some blockbusters in there, like Avatar and Titanic, Lord of the Rings, stuff like
Sure.
that. But more times than not, or Black Panther, more times than not, they don't nominate the blockbusters or a film that makes money or a popular film. And so to have that relegated to something called a fan favorite, I find that a little bit irritating. I would like to see the Academy acknowledge
Mhm.
bigger films, more money making films, because there's some of them are really good quality. And so I'm a little bit more irritated at that than the plan to have those 8 categories in a taped thing. But I understand where people are getting upset. I see their point. But I want to give them a little bit of rope, see how it looks.
So again, the book is Oscar's Biggest Mistakes, a superfan's guide to the Academy Awards, 1969 to 2021. Let's do some level setting, as they say in corporate America. You
Okay.
address this super early in the book. You're not a movie critic per
Nope.
se. You're really just a fan.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not a movie critic. I'm not a movie journalist. I'm not a movie historian. I do work in television. I do have a little bit of history working with film. Um, but I am basically a fan. I'm a guy who just likes movies. I like all kinds of stuff, but the book is written in a fan's perspective. If you're looking for movie criticism done on a Pauline Kael scale, or somebody like I don't know, Michael Phillips or A.O. Scott, one of your more
Mm-hmm.
recognizable film critics, that's not who I am. The book is filled with movie reviews, but they're done on more of like a level for the Cookie Monster. It's not. They don't. They're like 3 or 4 sentences long, and it's just I basically tell you if the movie stinks or not, and I'd say why I liked it, why I didn't like it, and that's kind of like the level. I try and make it simple. I try and make it fun, and when you go into too deep thought, too much of a cinephile area, I think people start to zone out, and then you can kind of ramble on and sort of lose your point, and that's not the point of the book. The point of the book is to be fun.
And reviewing all these old telecasts, and this book is 400 plus pages. Did you? I'm guessing you did. Did you sit down and watch every telecast from '69 forward just to kind of make sure everything was fresh in your head as you put pen to paper, so to speak?
I had to do some research for the earlier ones. I watched I started actually watching the show when I was about 10, and then I was watching consistently from there. And so that's about the age when I was able to stay up late and watch the whole thing. But the earlier shows, I had to go back. And so for that, I had to do some research. I had to go back and look up some stuff, find some old video. I had a great VCR tape, VHS tape called Oscar's Greatest Moments from 71 to 91. And that was a great source. So I was able to watch some of the older shows, and they showed some highlights and things. And I was able to pick up some stuff from there. That was a great resource. But yeah, so yeah, I had to go back a little bit. I had to try and find some stuff.
I mentioned the Grammys, and for music fans, for rock and metal fans in particular, people still talk about how Metallica lost the Metal Grammy to Jethro Tull in 1989. Scandalous, ridiculous. It brought out all the flaws in the Grammy Awards. Your book points out a lot of similar moments in the Oscars. What do you perceive as some of the biggest misses? I know it's impossible to encapsulate them all, but what were some of the biggest misses by the Academy Awards or wrongly awarded
Yeah.
statues?
Well, for me, some of there's three that stand out to me, and they all kind of fall into the Weinstein factory.
Mm-hmm.
One was, and I'm going to give the movie year, not the telecast year. The movie year, 1998. Right. That's when Shakespeare in Love won, opposed to three much better films: Saving Private Ryan, Life is Beautiful, which actually did win Best Foreign Film,
mm-hmm.
and Thin Red Line. I thought those three films were a lot better than Shakespeare in Love. Shakespeare in Love I liked; it was cute, but Best Picture of the Year, no. And then in 2010, The King's Speech won for Best Picture, and I didn't.
See, I thought that was a great movie. I don't think it was better than everything else. I thought it was a great movie.
I liked him in it, and I thought it was a good movie, but it didn't shake me as the Best Picture of the Year. I mean, it's not something that stood out to me. It's like, wow, I want to watch this again. I thought Social Network would have been a better choice. I'd have to go back and look what else was nominated that year. And then in the following year, The Artist was another one that won. And that movie says just overrated, written all over it. I mean, it was clever, sort of gimmicky. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I didn't think it would deserve Best Picture. And then if you were to go back even further, the one that I keep hearing about when we talk about the book, when I talk about to fans, people always bring up Dances with Wolves defeating Goodfellas. And I absolutely agree with them with that one. I think Goodfellas was definitely my choice. But what I would to say to that, I don't find that as egregious only because Dances with Wolves pretty much kind of checked all the boxes for a Best Picture winner, and it was the front runner to win that year. So it wasn't like it was like, wow, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. It was most people what the fans' choice was. But as far as the way the Oscars think, Dance with Wolves, I kind of expected it to win, and it checked. It was big. It was a scopy film. Kevin Costner,
Yeah.
first movie, Buffaloes, beautiful movie, cowboys and Indians, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it was epic movie. It was just that's the kind of movie that wins. So fully expected it to win that year, but Goodfellas should have won.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
the one
easy
I
to make
keep
those.
hearing about.
It's easy to make those assessments with the benefit of time. Like we all recognize
Sure.
Goodfellas as one of the best movies ever, like a crowning achievement for Martin Scorsese. But in
Yeah.
the moment, exactly everything you said, like it checked all the boxes. It made sense that Dances with Wolves won. And to me, this is not like a Jethro Tull Metallica situation.
Mhm.
You can make a case for Dances with Wolves in that moment, in that awards.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the Metallica Jethro Tull moment for me was 1998, Shakespeare in Love defeating Saving Private Ryan. That's
That's fair.
Even though the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan made me sick. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a better movie than Shakespeare in Love. Shakespeare in Love was a cute, acceptable rom-com, but not Best Picture of the Year.
Right. And you said it, Saving Private Ryan left a mark. Those
Mhm.
movies that you can't forget. Those are the ones that you
Exactly.
think, how come that didn't go all the way? That's the thought process. Like that was it. You mentioned Social Network, which to me, I mean, the score for that movie is fantastic. You
Mhm.
talk a lot about music through the
Yeah.
book. You talk a lot about Academy Award winning songs, which really hit a rough patch in the 80s, right?
Well, yeah, that was actually why I wanted to do that category, because in the 80s, you had all these I wanted to do best original song because I think it's a fun category.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the music I listened to in the 80s was not the music that I listen to now. I mean, now I listen, now I'm a deadhead and I love Bruce Springsteen, and and I listen to XRT music and all that kind of stuff. But back in the 80s, I listened to a lot of more popular stuff. But anyway, the 80s was fun because in that category, because there was all these soundtrack movies coming out. And so opposed to the 70s, which was all these heavy ballads, like it's like The Morning After, we've only
Yeah,
Evergreen,
right.
Theme from
Streisand and
Mahogany,
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
In the 80s, you got a little bit more fun. You had Power of Love nominated, you had stuff from Top Gun nominated, you had Ghostbusters nominated, you
Mhm.
had Stevie Wonder stuff. I mean, you had more popular songs. And the 80s was filled with soundtrack movies, meaning where you'd had all these great soundtracks where you had basically movies kind of filmed around them.
Yeah.
No, and a lot of those songs got nominated. The interesting thing, though, and I was thinking about this the other night, is John Hughes always had great soundtracks in his movies, but none of his songs were ever nominated for
Right.
an Oscar. Um, maybe the Home Alone song was, but I don't consider that in the same category as, like, say, "Don't You Forget About Me"
Right.
from
That's the
Breakfast Club,
obvious one. Yeah. Simple Minds for sure.
or Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark for Pretty in Pink,
Psychedelic Furs, right?
or Psychedelic Furs. Um, that kind of stuff. I mean, those songs were written for those movies, and those were completely ignored. But you still had a lot of you had Footloose, and you had Take My Breath
Yeah.
Away from Top Gun. You just had fun stuff, and so that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do that category. And that category always increasingly drives me crazy, and especially when we got into the 90s, it just basically became, all right, which Randy Newman song, which
Right.
which
Phil
Diane,
Collins. Yeah.
which it was the sewing circle of Diane Warren,
Sewing Circle.
Randy Newman, Phil Collins, Sting, and
Brian Adams.
Brian Adams had a couple, but even it's like Phil Collins. It's like how many?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, and I like Phil Collins, but I mean, it's like seemed like every single year you'd have a song in there. But the love for Randy Newman, it's like, oh my God, it's like every single year you'd find a Randy Newman song in there, and that's what from the '90s came on, and I think that it's a fun category. That's why I chose to do that one.
Oscar's Biggest Mistakes, a superfan's guide to the Academy Awards, 1969 to 2021. Now, you mentioned, Eric, a couple times in the book that you haven't watched every movie mentioned in the book, every movie that won awards. It comes up a couple times when talking about Best Picture. I guess this is the hardest question I'll ask you all night. Is it hard to make a case for your opinion when you haven't seen every picture in every category that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, but you're right. One thing I will say though is that the movies that I did not see, most of them weren't like the main contenders, and most of the ones I didn't see were films that were ones that were the actors were nominated for. I think I saw of the Best Picture nominated films. I think I saw probably about 85 to 90% of them, going all the way back to 1969. I think that's pretty good.
It's not a bad record.
The Best Actress ones and the Best Actor ones, I know there's a few that I didn't see, and like The Emigrants was one of them. The Bostonians were one of them. Travels with My Aunt. I mean, these are just some films like from the 70s and early 80s that they weren't the front runners.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's funny because reading the book and seeing those names like The Emigrants, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know that movie. Like the name didn't even ring a bell. Like,
right. And so it's like, I mean, and some of these movies I couldn't exactly find. I mean, there is, and I only have so much time where I can do this. And so I figured, like, all right, if there's a movie that I didn't see or that I'd never heard of, instead of trying to make something up or trying to find it and sitting through something, I mean, if it's not even considered like one of the front runners, then I'm not gonna deal with it. And most of them all kind of form this. They all kind of fall into the same genre. It's like most of them that I pass over are the British costume dramas.
Yeah, all the period piece stuff.
All the period pieces. I think most of them kind of fall into that category. Like poor Liv Ullmann. I think she's listed in the book about 8 times. I didn't see any of it, and I didn't see any of her movies. And I, and I kind of use it as sort of like a running gag. It's like, Liv Ullmann's in it. Didn't see it. And Liv Ullmann, she's a wonderful actress, and she was married to Ingmar Bergman, and she's actually going to be getting, at this year's telecast, she's going to be getting a career award. And so hopefully they'll do a montage, so it'll be a way to kind of see clips of all the movies that I didn't see that I listed in the book. But most of the things I didn't see are kind of like the hoity-toity British dramas, and I don't feel bad about that. I mean, if they were,
you shouldn't.
If they were big contenders, it's like, or something that I've heard of, yeah, I would have spent more time on that.
I feel like, and this is a generalization, and you could tell me if this is right or wrong. It seems like your taste and your picks are more closer aligned with the Academy in recent years. And if that's true, does that mean the Academy is getting it right more often lately?
I think they're doing a pretty good job. They're over there, all their picks. Yeah, I think they're doing a little bit better. I was really, going back, I didn't think Green Book, which won 2018. I think that was a reach. I wouldn't have given it to Green Book, but I mean, Shape of Water won. Yeah, I thought that was the best of the year. Last year was Nomadland.
Last year was rough for a million different reasons.
Last year was rough, and I didn't see most of the films until after the telecast because I didn't go into a movie theater, and I still haven't gone to a movie theater yet. But and I didn't think Nomadland was all that great. But Parasite, I was so happy that Parasite won a couple years ago. I saw that movie like right before the Oscars. I saw it on DVD, and that movie just blew my mind. And I remember me and you were at a performance, and you had asked me about the best picture that year, and I thought for sure it was going to be 1917, and you said no, I think Parasite, and I kind of like, well, we'll see. And I saw Parasite, I think probably 2 days later, and I thought it was just tremendous, and I really applaud the Academy for thinking outside the box, and not only now having it win for best picture, but also best foreign film in the same year, because I don't think that's ever happened before. So I applaud them for that. So that was good. So I mean, I think they're doing, for best picture, I think they're doing pretty good. I mean, they get it right more times than not. I don't, I think they're doing all right.
One of my favorite genres, if not my favorite genre, is horror, which can't get arrested at the Academy Awards. And there have been...
and I wish it did, because I would be able to include horror in my book. Because then there aren't any good because horror movies weren't really ever touched on at the Academy Awards. I didn't touch on it in my book, and because that's a genre I really would have delved into more.
Why there have been plenty of artistic, really well done horror flicks. There have been plenty of fantastically directed, well told horror stories through the years, decades. Yeah. Why do you think? Why is horror just stigmatized to the point that the Academy won't even look at it?
Yeah, I think so. There's, they nominated Get Out a couple of years ago, or 2-3 years ago, and that was a step in the right direction. They did give Best Picture to Silence of the Lambs, so that was good. And then
that was what, 1991?
That was 91, and then The Sixth Sense was nominated as well. That's not necessarily a horror film, but it does deal in ghosts. Every now and then they'll slip one in there. Maybe they'll, maybe it's not a horror film, but they'll throw something with a little gore in there, like or some sci-fi, like The Arrival or District 9 or something like that. But you're right. I mean, there's, and I want to say, I'm going to stick up for horror movies because I've been seeing some really good ones lately. Excuse me. And I just saw a couple really good ones. I just watched last night in Soho, which is done by Edgar Wright. I thought that one movie was really good. I thought it was very well done. And even the remake of Candyman, which came out over the summer. I don't know if you saw the original Candyman with Virginia Madsen from '92. I thought that movie was terrific. This movie I thought was even better than that one. I thought they did and Jordan Peele's involved in it too. I thought it was just a terrific film. I thought they did a great job with the Candyman remake. I like that genre, but I do believe that it's sort of like a reputation that a stigma reputation that's kind of, it's a little difficult to overcome. I think it's got to be something really, really special for them to nominate a horror film in there, or even in a subcategory, because they don't even seem to go near them, because
like
which is
effects or makeup or any of that stuff. Right. The book, again, Oscar's Biggest Mistakes, A Superfan's Guide to the Academy Awards, 1969 to 2021. Is there a year that, as you've done your research, as you've gone back through your cinematic time machine, is there a year that stands out as like the best example of either the telecast or just them getting it right?
1997 sticks out to me. 2003 sticks out to me, the movie year. So it would be 1998 would be the telecast year. 2004 would be the telecast year. I thought they did a great job in 1998 for the movies. 1997. That was the year Titanic won, and that was a long show. If you remember back then, that show was almost 4 hours long, but it was a good show. Billy Crystal hosted, and he started the show by wheeling out the Titanic ship, which I thought was clever. He's always been the best host. I didn't particularly like when they brought him back a few years ago. I thought he was kind of old and stale, but his prime years, like the 5 years in a row he hosted, I thought he was tremendous. But I thought that was a good year. I think they got most of the nominees right. I thought it was a good, solid, entertaining show. That was the year they also brought out. They did that big family photo where they brought out all the nominees from, and
Right.
they brought all the winners from the last, who's ever still living, and that was really cool because you saw somebody like Ernest Borgnine sitting there with Shirley Jones, and you saw all these people that you thought were dead and buried. They're kind of bringing them all out. Olivia Havilland, they schlepped her out. I mean, it was just really kind of cool. And I think they got most of the awards right that year. And I thought the movie year 2003, that was the year Lord of the Rings won. I thought they did really well that year. That was the year Lord of the Rings went 11 for 11, which I don't know if you'll ever see again. I absolutely thought that was the best movie that year. And
you're talking Return of the King.
Return of the King, yeah. And I think they got most everything right as well. Sean Penn won for Mystic River, and that was a good year. I think they did pretty well. It was a good telecast. With the Oscars, it kind of goes in cycles. If you have a year that's got good movies nominated, where they you have movies that people have seen, more popular films. Like another one would be 1994. Well, 1997, not only did you have Titanic, but you also had Good Will Hunting, and you had LA Confidential, you had The Full Monty, and you had something else, another popular movie. And in 94, you had Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption. That was another good year.
Yeah,
and so,
iconic movies.
Yeah, and those are movies people have seen, right? And so those are the years that the telecasts are a lot more fun. People are invested, they're watching, the clips are good, the stars are out there. It's films that people are see. They're more invested in the show, and they generally get things right, those years. So those years stand out to me.
So on the other side of things, was the 2021 telecast the worst?
Yes.
Like without hesitation, you agree?
Yeah, that was awful. And the James Franco Anne Hathaway telecast was a strong runner up, but that last year was just awful. I hated it. It was just a joyless production. They didn't have any music, and the music they did have was in the pre-show. They didn't have any clips, and so when the nominees were announced, instead of showing a clip of what they were in, or showing a clip of something that they're nominated for, like best costume, they're nominating. Okay, this is what so and so was inspired by to come up with the best costume for Pinocchio. All right, fine, say that, but let's see what the costume of Pinocchio looks like. They didn't do that. And instead, it was just so much yapping, and it's like they just droned on and on and on, and it was just, as a viewer, it was just boring as all get up, and it was just a joyless, boring production. And telecast was just wrong on so many levels. It's like they didn't. I mean, it was just not only all the stuff I just described, but they also the in memoriam was going at a breakneck pace. You didn't see anybody that you couldn't see any of the names or read the names because it kept going so fast. I would have had Sean Connery last, but that's just me. I understand why they did it because Chadwick Boseman had just passed away, so they had him last. But Sean Connery, I think he's a bigger star. but that's beside the point. That's just me. And then the stupid decision to have, I know what they were trying to do, and it blew up in their faces, but to have Best Picture third to last instead of last, because they wanted to have a sort of like a nice melancholy moment, because everybody expected Chadwick Boseman to win. So they had that last, and they moved Best Picture 2 awards before that. I just thought that was dumb because it left the viewers confused.
Right.
And Chadwick Boseman didn't win. Anthony Hopkins won. He wasn't there. And so it kind of ended up on a thump. And then they also had that stupid Name That Tune game with Little Ray, and which was like a produced segment with Glenn Close. And she was a good sport, but I just thought it was just a bad show. I hated every minute of it.
All right. So March 27th, we get to do this all over again, the Academy Awards. What wins Best Picture?
I have just watched Coda this morning, and I thought Coda was the best movie of the year. I thought Coda, I loved it. I loved everything about it. I don't know if you've seen Coda, but man, I hope that wins. And it just won the SAG award. So before the SAG awards, I was going to say Power of the Dog is your clear favorite, and it still might win. I hope not. I didn't particularly like Power of the Dog. I thought it was a good movie, but I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. Coda, I loved. So I'm hoping that Coda builds on the momentum that it from winning the SAG awards. It kind of sneaks in there and wins, because of the 10 movies out there, that's the best one that I've seen. I thought that I loved every single minute of it. I couldn't stop raving about it after I saw it. I thought it was tremendous. And what I liked about Coda is that the movie is completely formula. I mean, if you watch the film, it's just your basic, it follows a template, it follows a formula. You can telegraph the move of everything that's going to happen in the storyline, but it's executed so well and with such beauty, and the characters are so likable. And the kid who plays the lead, Amelia Jones, she's just fantastic. It's a wonderful movie. So I hope it wins. And so right now I would say Best Picture is between Power of the Dog's your favorite. Maybe Coda might slip in and win there. We'll see where the momentum is in about another week or two, because it kind of changes almost on a weekly basis. But I still think Power of the Dog is probably your front runner. I don't think West Side Story was going to win. I don't think Drive My Car is going to win either. I don't think Nightmare Alley was going to win. So I'm still.
I took some of the best
between those two.
Some of the best naps I've had recently happened while trying to watch Nightmare Alley on HBO.
Oh, I liked it.
I'm sure. I mean, I love the actors. I love Guillermo. I just fell asleep. I could not slide into gear with that one.
I liked it. I thought it was good. I liked the first half of the movie more than I liked the second half of the movie. I think once they brought in Cate Blanchett's character, the film began to fade a little bit for me. I was more entranced by the whole carnival stuff. I thought that was a little bit more interesting, and a little bit it gave you saw a little bit more of Guillermo's style in there. And I'm a big fan of his films, Pan's Labyrinth and Shape of Water. I love all that. Pacific Rim. Oh, I love his stuff. But this movie, I found it very interesting. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I liked it.
Fair. Okay. So Eric Litt, if you are a cinephile, if you are listening to the show, if you're watching the show, you're a cinephile, you are one of those people who throws Oscar parties, bets on the Oscars every year. This is your book. It's Oscar's Biggest Mistakes, a superfan's guide to the Academy Awards, 1969 to 2021. Eric, when you come back, we don't have time now, but when you come back, we can argue why I think Avengers Endgame is a piece of garbage. So
which movie? Avengers Endgame?
Yes.
Okay. Can I tell people where to get the book?
Please.
Okay. My book is available right now. You can get it at the following website, eckhartzpress.com. And
you're going to need to spell that one.
I'm going to spell it for you. It's ECKHARTZ HARTZPRESS.com. So you can get it at that website. It's available right now. And if you want it even quicker than that, I will be signing books at Sketchbook Brewery on Tuesday, March the 8th from 7 to 9 p.m.
This
at
is the
4901
Skokie location?
Main Street. Pardon me?
The Skokie
The
sketchbook.
Skokie location at 4901 Main Street. It's just a little bit west of Skokie Boulevard. It's a great big place. They craft their own beer there. I'll be signing books from 7 to 9 p.m. on Tuesday, and I'll be talking Oscars, doing a little bit of trivia, talking about my book. I'll be signing some books there, and I hope for everybody to come and show up and have a good time.
Awesome. Eric Litt, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.